to finish this very long episode off, you have one last thing you want to share with us.
Correct. I watched the World WCR Championship, the World Women's Circuit Racing, and this weekend they were in Cremona, so it was
Italy?
a home race for the Italian riders on the grid, which I believe are two.
Oh, okay.
Starting grid for race 1 was Maria Herrera in first. Then we had Roberta Ponziani in second.
Nice.
Which is really, really awesome for her. Last year, she was able to finish in P2 in Cremona. That's when Sarah Sanchez, with her crash, ended up taking out Maria and costing her the championship, essentially. So it was definitely also almost like a redemption weekend for Maria. I'm sure there were some feelings about the track. Because she was just a victim of a casualty of someone else's fault.
But also I remember last year that race was both of those races were so fun.
Yeah.
There was so much overtaking and so much beautiful racing happening.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Then in third place, we had the only Mexican rider on the grid starting, Madrigal.
Oh, okay, nice.
So she started in P3. Then in P4, we had Beatriz Nela. And then in fifth place, we had Sanchez, following it up by Avalon Lewis, the Kiwi that I was telling you about. And then so going into race 1, we immediately had almost like a mirror situation from the previous round. Going into race 1, essentially we had the top 3 immediately separating themselves from the rest of the grid. It was immediately a gap.
So it was Maria Ponziani and the Mexican driver. Rider?
No, because Beatriz Nela was able to pass her.
Okay.
And then so Madrigal ended up moving down. And then so it was essentially Maria Ponziani and then Nela in the top 3, essentially riding away. And just for reference, at the end there was essentially between P4 and P1 there was a 6.3 second gap.
Oh wow.
So they ended up separating from the pack. Then we had again actually Avalon Lewis and Sanchez and Madrigal kind of battling with each other. There was another group that opened up, and then behind it we had another group with Tyler Ralph and a few other ones. Our girl Lucy Michelle actually ended up starting from P10.
Oh, nice. Great job.
Which is really awesome. She unfortunately ended up dropping down 2 positions. You still get points finishing P12, but of course if you start in P10, you kind of want to finish in the top 10. But yeah, so we had ended up also, Avalon Lewis was a little bit more struggling on this one, so she ended up falling off, and then it was really a battle between Madrigal and Sanchez, and they were kind of fighting it out. And then of course the top 3. And it was very, very interesting because on this track, there's in the third sector there is this very long straight, and you have to be at least I would say a minimum of 7 to 8 tenths ahead of the other person to not give them a slipstream. And the slipstream I think makes up almost a half a second. So you can you really have to be able to drive out a distance. And I can already tell you, in neither of the races someone was able to punch in a gap like that. Really? It was constantly, they were riding behind each other. And I will say, I do highly recommend you can watch the World WCR on YouTube. I would highly recommend going in, because some of the racing, especially with the cameras, it's so nice, especially because how tight it is. And then we had Roberta Ponziani, which I will say the last time they raced, I was very hard on her because she, I think, started in P4 and P5, and she lost 14 positions, 10 positions right after start. And then she had to carve her way to the grid and finished in P4 both times. But it's just unnecessary because clearly you do have really good pace, right? But you fucked it, right? And so this time she was sitting behind Maria for the whole time, and everyone was kind of okay, is she gonna try to make a move? Because Maria is of course someone who loves leading the race from the front, and then it's also, you always have to risk with, because the goal is technically to attack with only 4 or 3 laps to go. That's when you want to go into the attack. But if there's a red flag, then if the race ends, they're not going to finish it out, and then it is what it is, right? So it's like you kind of have to play it smart, right? And then we get into it, and then Maria is defending, right? She always is picking the inside line, so no one is able to cut her off, right? And then we're into the final lap of the race. And Maria is able to carve out a gap right off the get-go going into the first sector, right? And there's a big gap, but Beatrice Nela is quite close to Ponziani, right? Ooh. So we're thinking, so the commentator's also thinking she's probably going to pass Ponziani and maybe able to slingshot around to catch Maria Herrera. But you know what Roberta said?
No.
I'm fucking home, bitch. I'm fucking home. Roberta Ponziani passes Maria Herrera, sticks it down, and they do a run down the finish line, and she ends up winning at home in fucking Italy. Let's go.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Oh, awesome. What I also didn't realize is that Roberta and Maria are teammates.
Oh, okay. I didn't
They're
know
raced for the same team. It is Clint Forward Racing Team.
Okay.
They also wear the same colors. That might help with different. I didn't realize that, but they are our teammates.
Okay.
And wow, I was so happy, and honestly, like everyone in like the Park Femme and stuff like that, seemed to be like really happy because of course it was in Italy, but everyone was so happy for Roberta getting her first win in there.
Was she emotional about it?
She
or
wasn't. She was very happy. She was super happy. She like when she managed to pass the finish line, she was like shaking on the bike, and she was super happy. I will say her post race interview was a little awkward because she also got a weird question. So you ended up winning the race? Yay! Like it was not a good question. Like instead of being like, what was your thought process in trying to make that attack? Because obviously, if you make the attack too soon, Maria might counter, right? And it is Maria Herrera who we're talking about. The person with the target on her back, I would say, in this championship. But yeah, it was so exciting to see her. Beatrice Nela ended up coming third.
Okay, nice.
You know, smiliest person on the grid.
Yeah,
you know, you can't. And it was really, really a fantastic race, and it was awesome to see Roberta also finally really showing her potential. She said she knew that she was fast because it is Cremona. It is a race or a track that she's also much more familiar with. But it was awesome just to really finally for her to get her flowers, get her at home, because last year she inherited P2 due to Maria being and Sarah DNFing. So it was on her own merit. She qualified in P2. And so it was really exciting to see, and was very, very happy for her that she finished in P1.
That's for the first race.
That is for the first race. Then going into the second race, the qualifying goes on to based on fastest lap times during race 1. So that means that we actually had Roberta Ponziani starting on P1, Beatrice Nela in P2, and then Maria Herrera in P3. It sounds interesting, but it's also Maria was obviously the only one driving without slipstream.
True.
So you have to give that. And then Sarah Sanchez we had in 4th, Avalon Lewis in 5th, and then we had Madrigal in 6th again. And then we had almost right off the get-go again this situation, but this time the top 4 separating themselves from the field. This time it was Ponziani, Herrera, Nela, and Sanchez. And Avalon Lewis was once again not really able to stick with them. She was comfortably riding in P5, and she ended up coming in P5. For Sarah Sanchez, she ended up also dropping off of the front a little bit. So she was 2.4 seconds out to the leader at the end. So she ended up finishing in 4th. So during the race, she ended up dropping off. I will say what is also really exciting, because we're obviously in the second season of this championship. You're constantly seeing people setting records, right? Lap records. And especially the second time around, the second race, they were pushing even further. We're going faster, right? And they were constantly beating each other 1 through 3. We're beating each other for who's setting the fastest lap record. And Maria Herrera, however, going into the race, immediately was able to go into P1.
Oh, okay.
And then she ended up leading the race from the front for a long time. And then we had Beatrice Naylor this time in second and Ponziani in third. So we had essentially 2 and 3 inverted. And then going into the final lap, we have the same situation. But we also have Maria Herrera in first place.
Yeah.
And she fucking studied that.
Yeah.
She studied that, and you could tell because she defended this time. Her and Beatrice Naylor actually ended up having contact. Both of them stayed on the bike, but Maria Herrera was still on the preferred line. Beatrice ended up washing wide. Ponziani passes her. Maria sends it all the way down, finishes on first, Ponziani in second, and then Beatrice Naylor in third. And Maria Herrera, she was happy. She was excited. She did a bunch of wheelies.
Oh, really?
She did a bunch of wheelies. That's the first thing that's on my list. Maria wheelie. She did a bunch of wheelies, and it's honestly, I would be doing the same thing if I could do a wheelie. I'd be doing wheelies all the time on a bike, especially after you win a race like this. You could tell how important it was to her to win. But
I also love that you could see, I mean, I didn't, but it seems like you could see how she improved. She learned from what had happened the day before. Not that she's the only one who does this.
Of course.
Most professional athletes are going to study and make sure that they do better next time. But it's just, I love seeing that it means so much to her. And rightfully so. I mean, that's what we've been preaching. Like, people should be excited about these wins because this is incredible. You're like an athlete. You get to do this for a living.
Yeah.
You get to compete against other people who have the same passion, who've also been doing this for years, and for you to learn from your mistake and the next day be like, no guys, you can't, you won't be able to do the same thing. You're not going to
catch me out like this again.
Not like this again.
And I literally have this in my notes that I think if the position would have been reversed, so like in race 1, Naylor would have been in P2 and would have made that move on Maria, I think it would have stuck. But because Maria had the chance to review this, and she studied that and she looked at what can she do. Because she was also talking in a post-race interview that she really tried to put in a gap. In sector 1, she was always the fastest, right? She pushes out like a 4/10 gap. But then in sector 2 and sector 3, you end up having like straights in there. And especially in sector 3, you have this long straight where if you are not 7/10 out, it's done. But what I will also say was really cool to see is that, first of all, Maria of course she was like, it sucks that I came in second in race 1, but she was very happy for her teammate. And she was also, of course, very happy for the team. That's good team for points for the Constructors' Championship. And I will say, however, you can tell that Beatrice Naylor finishing race 2, that she was quite bummed out. For someone, like, of course, she was hella smiley afterwards, right? But you could tell.
But it makes sense. I mean, she's an athlete. She wants to win.
Of course.
And so coming in second or third is not winning.
Especially, like, she now came 2 races in a row in P3. And she didn't finish in front of her main competitor. Neither of those races. So that all hurts. And you can tell that she was... of course she was hella smiley at the end once again, but you could tell that, like, I think she's so hungry. She wants it.
I love that though.
And also the commentators notated that the relationship between the top 3, so those that I just mentioned, is much more amicable compared to how it was between Ana Carrasco last year and Maria Herrera. They weren't as like cool with each other, even though you could tell that Beatrice was like, I'm not saying that it was Maria's fault that they got together. It was a racing incident, but it's just always such a fucking bummer if you're the one who loses out.
No, of course.
The good thing is both of them stayed on the bike. Because that would have been devastating for both of them, of course. But yeah, it is. I'm very excited. It is a little bit unfortunate that the women are not back until July.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's a long gap now.
Okay, gotcha.
They're off for like 2 months now. They're not back until they're in Donning Park.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, Donington Park in
England.
Donington
Donington Park
or UK.
So what the last thing I did also wanted to mention before I'm going to go over the championship standing is the commentators also mentioned this. It's so we had Tyler Ralph. She finished in 10th place in the second race. And it's really unfortunate because Tyler, she has race pace to race. I'm not saying in the top 3, but she has race pace to race in like 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
But she keeps getting caught up in the sauce, right? And then she's not able to really make the overtakes.
Yeah.
I will say I wasn't really able to see anything because the top 3 are always so competitive that they're not really showing any of the other racing.
Yeah.
Because like you don't want to miss it because you don't know what will happen.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In race 1, we did also have, I don't know if you remember, her name is Emily Bondi.
Yeah.
She's a French driver. And Dobbs, the American driver, they ended up, so Emily Bondi went down and she ended up crashing into Dobbs, taking her out. And she ended up getting 2 long lap penalties for the next race.
Oh, that sucks.
But interestingly enough, they still ended up right next to each other. So Dobbs finished in 12th and Bondi finished in 13th.
Oh, wow.
So they were right next to each other. And ahead of them was our girl, Lucy Michelle.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was really, really awesome. And it's fun racing.
Yeah.
It is so, it's so exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm very glad that I did watch it because it's also, once again, they're racing, they're doing 12 laps.
Yeah.
So it's not particularly long.
No.
I watched it this morning. I think both races within an hour.
Yeah.
So very, very easy watchable. If you can, I would highly recommend going back in and watching them race. So let me see about the championship standing. Just real quick, we have Maria Herrera still in first place with 90 points. Beatrice Nela in second place with 77 points. And now in third place, due to her excellent performance with 69 points, Roberta Ponziani.
Nice. Oh, that's so exciting. I love that Roberta got to win at home.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was already excited last year that she was on a podium at home.
Yeah.
So for her to win at home is exciting. I completely understand Beatrice's qualms with coming in third because it's just something you don't want to be, because you want to win, obviously, you know?
Sorry, I just remember the last thing I wanted to bring up. And one thing that I'm almost like, now that I've watched like the World WCR now last season and I've been following this season, it almost makes my heart ache a little bit that F1 Academy, that the drivers only get 2 chances to race for this.
Yes.
Because I understand the thought process that you don't want people to sit in this championship for forever and potentially take up spaces for drivers. But if you would give them at least another third season, because we have people like Emma Felbermeier, who is clearly very talented.
Yes.
But she will now take this whole season probably to try to catch up to the front. But the people who are highly competitive at the moment, they're all leaving. Yeah. Right? And I just wish because essentially you get 1 season to warm up and the second season it's all out and that's it. And sometimes, especially now that I see how much improvement Beatrice Nela has made and Roberta Ponziani, that they're racing up there and they're pushing each other so much, I really wish that sometimes like, I wish they would get another chance. Like, I'm not saying like forever, but like maybe a third season, like 3 times is a charm.
I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree with it, but I do also see that F1 Academy is considered a junior league, essentially, and I don't think the World Women's Circuit Racing Championship is a junior league.
I think it is to a degree because they're all still on the same bike, and that is usually...
Yeah, and I mean, there's still the goal is to go through to Superbike and or Moto E or Moto 2, 3, whatnot. But I still think that the intention for the league is just a little bit different.
No, and I agree with this. And I'm not saying that I want people to stay forever in F1 Academy.
But I hear what you're saying, because also you don't have that many races, so you don't have that many opportunities to learn. And then finally you're getting a hang of it. Then also the season is over. Then you have to start again. I mean, the same thing with Leah Block. We saw her. She had a great end of the season. Now she's starting off and she's having a little bit of bad luck and like a combination of things, and then like we're already like almost halfway through F1 Academy season, and It's like,
Yeah,
so I hear what you're saying.
Sorry, and I agree that the World WCR is not a junior league. I'm not trying to say that they're amateur racers, but I'm also not saying like Dorian Pan.
No, the F1 Academy isn't either. Yeah,
but it is definitely to help people maybe find a way into that and potentially also find that woman that will make it to F1 or women at some point, right? But it's just that sometimes it's like it just feels like, especially then when you have drivers who've never driven in a single seater car, right? It's just like you get only so little, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes, especially when I see this, it's like, oh, I wish they would have a little bit more time for growing, you know?
No, I
maybe
hear
just
you.
one extra year, right?
Yeah.
Just because, once again, you have these people who have no experience, and then
No, I hear what you're saying, but I think we talked a lot about racing today.
Yes, it was a long one.
We watched a lot of racing. I hope you guys did too, or if not, you watched or you heard what we had to say about the racing, and maybe it will inform you or inspire you guys to watch some racing yourself. I mean, it was definitely a great weekend in terms of racing. And I'm looking forward to next weekend.
Yeah, next weekend there will be more racing, as every weekend. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're on Spotify, as always, hit that follow button. Leave us a 5-star review or no review at all. Just kidding. And then on YouTube, as always, like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for getting up early and joining me this day to record this, and then you guys take care, and we will be seeing you guys very soon.